I'm always trying to get like young kids to grow. So having some young kids harvest some green beans and being able to make snap beans right then and there is one of the easiest crops that I feel to grow. And I also think I've said it's easy because most people have some sort of relationship or like some sort of knowledge of green beans. You know, it's just kind of like they serve it in school. Thanksgiving, we got green bean casserole. So it's like something you kind of connect with. And I always feel that one of the drawing points of growing food is for you to be able to connect to something that you already have a taste for.
So we're back again. How are you, Mr. Farmer Fredo?
I mean, I'm doing good. You know, I just wish it would stop raining so much, you know, right now. But I'm doing good. You know, it's the best time of year to get some things growing in the ground. So I got the itch, man. I'm ready to plant.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I have a question for you today.
Okay.
So kind of based on me, but mostly all the questions that we're getting online on Facebook. What is the easiest plant to start with? Like if someone's starting out, someone's starting new, they want to start, what's going to be the easiest way?
The easiest? That's a tricky question. But so it's the easiest. It's not the flyest. It's not the coolest. Now you're saying the easiest.
The easiest,
not the one that you can call your friends and show a picture of.
Yeah, no.
Okay. All right. So the easiest one that I would recommend is some good old fashioned green beans.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because green beans naturally they are number one. They produce multiple beans off of a plant.
Mm-hmm.
They are by nature designed to fixate or bring nitrogen from the soil upward to help for benefiting other plants. So in a way, it's designed to help or enhance the growing pattern that you're growing your crop rotation. And so I always go with green beans because they can grow, again, like in the 5-gallon buckets. They can also be grown like in ground in your own garden space or your raised garden bed. And when you grow it, you can get probably like 10 to like 12 little beans that kind of like go off of it that grow pretty easy. And if you think about, I'm always trying to get like young kids to grow. So having some young kids harvest some green beans and being able to make snap beans right then and there is one of the easiest crops that I feel to grow. And I also think I've said it's easy because most people have some sort of relationship or like some sort of knowledge of green beans. You know, just kind of like they serve it in school. Thanksgiving, we got green bean casserole. So it's like something you kind of connect with. And I always feel that one of the drawing points of growing food is for you to be able to connect to something that you already have a taste for.
Yeah.
And so green beans is always one of my first crops I want to introduce to in the space. Again, it's not the flyest.
Yeah.
Even though you can find some purple colored ones or some yellow colored ones and do some pole beans that kind of hang from the ceiling, but it don't require a lot except for some basic water and some sunlight. And that's pretty much any crop, but they are very forgiving.
Cool.
Some of them are drought tolerant, and then also with green beans, you also have like field peas that kind of fall like in that same sort of category. So you think of your black eyed peas, or I like cream peas and zipper peas and things like that. So that's kind of.
Growing up, my mom always made green beans, black eyed peas, and field peas, and butter beans. Always. Yeah. Just every meal had one of those in there somewhere.
Yeah, and all those like just like what we just talked about, they tie into something that you could plant a lot of it in a small space and get a bountiful harvest. And naturally, you would know how to can them. You can freeze them that can hold for a while. And so it's a way to feed people for a longer period of time with something that's nutritious. And like with the beans, the peas in particular, that could be an alternative source for like protein for you and things like that within like your diet if you're not trying to eat a lot of meats or you're trying to cut back on your meats. And then like I like them in our community garden spot because they those crops allow for more volunteers to be engaged with it, and it doesn't take a long explanation of how to harvest them. You know, it's just kind of like, have you eaten a green bean before? Yes. What size was it? It was about this size, perfect. So you go into the field and you go harvest all the green beans that look just like that, and they come back with like buckets of it, and just watching kids' eyes and see them fill up like a 5-gallon bucket. And that's why again I'm always like start simple. Start with some green beans, especially during the summertime, and a lot of volunteers can be engaged with it, and especially with the pandemic and social distancing, you can do like 100-foot row and get like 3 or 4 5-gallon buckets of beans. That'll be enough to go back and feed multiple people in our community.
Yeah. So let's say I'm at home. I got a 5-gallon bucket and I'm starting. So how much would it cost to start something like this, and how much should I water them? Like, how do I really, step by step, how would I start this?
Okay, so oftentimes when I start the 5-gallon bucket, because most times you could go places to get a 5-gallon bucket like donated.
Okay.
So you could think about a restaurant that serves a lot of pickles.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be like, hey, you have like a 5-gallon bucket I could possibly use? I'm like, yeah, I could totally like use it, and that works. Or if you have to go to your box store, most times the 5-gallon bucket costs you anywhere from like $3 to $6, depending on the grade of it. So it's not like that expensive.
Yeah.
And then once you get that, you got to think about the soil mixture. Like, see, myself, I like to make a customized like soil blend that's just perfect for what I'm trying to grow. But you can be fine with just your typical bag of pre-made soil mix that can run you anywhere from $3 to $8, depending on how enhanced you want your soil mixture to be, right?
So would just one bag work for a 5-gallon bucket?
That's it, one bag. Well, look for it where it says 1 cubic foot, cubic square foot. So at the bottom of the bag, the same way when you read like a bottle when it says like 16 ounces or X amount of fluid ounces, same thing when you get like a bag of a potty mix or a bag of like garden soil, it'll tell you how many square foot. So a 5-gallon bucket is the equivalent of 1 cubic square feet. So if you see like 2 cubic square feet, that you need to get 2 5-gallon buckets to kind of match with it. And so then from there, it's all about your like we were just talking about the green beans. It's about your preference, like what you want to eat or what you want to show off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I tell people, if you're like, nothing is as impressive if you can find some yellow tomatoes and you're growing them at home, whether they're yellow pear or if they're like yellow ox heart or whatever, and you have them growing in your backyard and your neighbors come by and you're just like, look, let's have like a hamburger or whatnot, and you just slice a piece of yellow tomato and put it on there. They're going to say, is it ripe? Is it ready? Like, yeah, it's right. This is how it's supposed to be, Yeah. And so like that sort of like creativity, like that's what I really enjoy about teaching people like to grow food, is that you can introduce to your friends, something unique, something like different. Like I always tell people, I dislike tomatoes just growing up. They were like bland. They didn't have any flavor. They were just like real yucky. Yeah. But then I grew like my own like Cherokee purple tomato, which was like a nice heirloom variety, which is a variety of seed that's been around like hundreds of years. And I had like some old just like salt and pepper, right? It was like real simple. Put on a tomato, cut it up. It was juicy, and it was just dissolved. Like with that bite awesome. That I had, I was like, man, this is how food's supposed to taste. And so that became, what got me going. And so I just been about like, let's grow more food. Let's try to grow more variety, but can't have people growing unique stuff first, but let's get them on some simple things first off.
So how much would you water it? So
the water inside, it's all about the plant. But on average, oftentimes when I tell people in a container, you want to give it 1 cup of water like per week. Okay. So just like, but oftentimes what I do for the schools in particular, we do like like your index finger sort of test. So you just put your finger into like the container, the 5-gallon bucket, and you lift it up. If it's dry, then you just need the water, because you want to have it where it feels almost like a sponge. Okay. So you just think in terms of like a wash sponge that you kind of, after it's been wringed out, not filled with water, where you can feel the moisture. And
you want it like all the time, no matter what the plant is, or do you want it like that just for green beans?
Well, I want it like most of the time, majority for all plants, I want some sort of moisture with it. Some stuff are more what we call drought tolerant, that could take less water, like okra. Okay. But just on average, like 1 cup of water a week. But then some plants like tomatoes, bell peppers, watermelon, plants like that, they require more water. So you might be giving it like 2 to 3 cups of water like a week. But a good indication, again, is always just touching the soil near the plant. And if you can scoop up a little bit and it can still hold a ball, then you know the moisture's pretty good. But if you scoop it up and it's like dust, then you just know if it's like the Thanos, right? Like dust just like evaporates, then you just like, well, end game, well, need to add some water. It's like that type of thing.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's like, it varies like plant by plant, but just on average, and what I tend to do for like our school gardens, we just try to create like a mechanism where they have some interaction of watering the plants like on a daily basis.
Okay.
So that way it never, but then like what we're experiencing, like multiple days of rain, we just kind of know you don't really have to water pretty much because nature's taking its course, but just make sure that the thing that could happen is too much water. But then you just have to let it just dry out and let nature do its thing, because there is a thing, as I talked about the buckets, that you can have too much water on a plant and that could basically cause the roots to suffocate, which could also lead to just disease and funguses and the plant just dies off.
How do you know if you're getting like that?
If you see like a lake around like the base of your plant, then you kind of like, well, there's probably too much water right now. And then it like, again, like I said, it's part of like nature. And so what we try to do is create a space where the water can run off, so it doesn't like sit there too long. And this is me talking about our in-ground plots. And a lot of times when I do the raised boxes, I make them high enough that I don't have to worry about waterlog happening, because the roots of the plant might only be in the top 6 inches. And so our boxes are 16 inches deep. So the water is basically, we know, is going throughout the box or low enough that's not doing too much damage to the roots. But a lot of times when you have them in ground, you kind of have to, you're held with nature. But that's why we spend like time with adding compost. We spend time with looking at the layout of the land to determine how we're going to do our planting, just so we don't want waterlog to happen, because again, if it does, we know what the end result is. The harvest that we're trying to give to our community, it won't make it just because the roots are suffocated and they can't breathe.
Cool. So it won't cause like spots or anything on the plants. You just have to make sure that if there's still water there and staying too long, just drain it out.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. So about the water. So we have a couple different techniques that we teach people how to water their plants when they're doing it on their own. So again, we're just talking a cup that you just pour in the water directly at the root. So the thing that we emphasize when watering your plant is to water the roots, because that's where the straw life is at, that's going to suck up into the plant. And so we try to encourage people to minimize overhead watering, because if the water on the leaves does not have enough time to evaporate off and it goes into like the cool of the night, it can create a disease that could be harmful to your plant. So we try to encourage people to water directly at the base of the root. So a lot of our garden spaces, we do drip irrigation. So that's just burying a water line or a soaker hose like down at the base of the plant. Or we put in, like on some of our fruit trees, we do a type of like micro drip, or the system, again, putting it at the base of the plants at the root. Because what we want to do is make sure that where the water, like I said, the straw life, the root, is being fed what it needs to thrive. Like the leaves are there for like canopy for like your crops. Of course, that's what you eat on some plants, but it's not necessarily as important as making sure that the root has the nutrients or the avenue for the nutrients to kind of come up in and to thrive in. And so with that, we just always want to make sure that if you only have an overhead sprinkler, we understand, but just making sure if you have that system that you do most of your watering like that in the morning parts of the day, unless it's like the heat of summer, then the heat of summer, you might be watering like twice a day anyway, because it's just too hot. And again, you want that root to stay moist. You want the plant to have like a lot of life, because if it does it, you'll notice that in the heat of summer, a lot of plants start to wilt away, and it's just a lot of heat, So we try our best to, if you can, put on a timer too. So there's like a couple of things that we just teach people of how to grow food, and especially with watering, because again, I don't think there's like here's a book of water, you got it right, because every plant is going to be different. Every environment, every garden zone is going to be different. But if you you build that relationship, with your plants and kind of see how they're like, hey, how you doing today, zucchini? And they're like, oh man, I'm thirsty. Well, here's some water. There you go. We try to build that sort of relationship.
So would the rule of thumb be water a little bit every day and just check the soil every day?
Good question. So I'm people that don't know me. I'm a lazy man farmer. So what I found that if there's not a lot of rain, to give it like a good heavy soaking has been like the best, because that allows for the roots to kind of like thrive and penetrate versus small. It's almost like if you're preparing for like a race.
Okay.
Right. So it's best to hydrate yourself up before you kind of go out and do the run, and make sure that you're as fully hydrated as possible. Then anticipating that through this run, I'm going to drink enough to keep myself hydrated. You're really just keeping up to maintain the hydration that you already have. So we encourage people a good heavy soaking. If you can do it once a week, is suffice, and then kind of spot check to see if you need to do it. Now, the only time I do the smaller ones, again, is when I'm doing the school gardens, because, again, the kids, we're trying to engage them in the growing process. So we want to make sure that daily they're coming in and checking on what they have. But if you're doing it in your backyard, a good Sunday soaking is good enough. And then you just check the roots again with a finger check, or you can put a popsicle stick in. If it sticks, you don't have to water. If it does, the Thanos happens, then you know, like, bam, it's time for me to water.
Cool. So that's a good place to start, or a good place to end it. So people that are starting, people like me that don't have any plants, know how to go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
So the easiest thing is green beans and 5-gallon buckets and
it's a water. And if you're looking for it, you don't have to be any fancy with like your watering can. Like I said, you can just think about just a plastic cup that you have at home that you want to just, again, water at the base of the plant and the roots. And if you want to get like a watering can because you're thinking about your backyard, you want to kind of create the ambiance and the vibe of an old English cottage garden and got your straw hat on and things like, you could do that too. But at the end of the day, just think about like a cup of water, a cup of water a week to your plants. It will be suffice and you'll be good to go.
Sweet. Well, thank you very much.
I appreciate it, man. Good talking with you. Bye-bye.